you should really ask yourself, and not just ask yourself, probably in front of mirror or in front of anyone, just try to make a 60-second speech of why you are better than anyone else, right? If you think that if you can convince yourself in that 60-second speech, you're gonna go do wonderful in your career.
I'm Prakshi Vik from Management Department, and on behalf of Training and Placement Cell and JC Bose Technology and Business Incubation Center, I am going to host this session now. So I welcome you, sir. And are you ready for the session?
Yeah, I'm ready for the session. I'm pumped up. I'm ready to talk.
So, sir, tell us please, how does it feel coming back to the campus?
It's a surreal feeling in itself. The campus has changed a lot. I never used to see so many people. Like it used to be in 2003 when we graduated, it was only the BTech, right? So
right.
We had a batch of 180 people. So maybe we had like 500 odd people in total, right? So it's so much more crowded now. It's so much more full of energy. So I'm really happy to be here. But it took me 17 years to actually be here.
Yes, sir, but I think this is the right time that you are here.
Thank you.
Our next question is, what was your favorite part of attending this college?
No, I think, so, it's not going to be a short answer. So, I was a studious kid right from the starting, right? And I left my family when I was 12 and a half, right? And went to the boarding school, and then by the time I was in 11th and 12th, I was actually, the way you guys do it now in college, I was actually renting a place, living, separately, and still studying, little kind of still wanted to do good to myself. So as soon as I entered into the college, I was like, dude, I'm done. I'm not gonna study anymore. So it was all about sports, right? So right from the first year, I picked up sports. We would start with cricket right after college, then volleyball, and then basketball and badminton. I would end my day maybe at 12 or 1 a.m. in the morning, right? So I would play a lot, really, but still the best part of it was friendship, and I cannot emphasize this enough, that make good friends and just hang on to them. That's what I would say. That was the best part.
The best part for you was sports and your friends. That's
Yep.
really cool. And next question is, when you entered this college, what sort of dreams did you have in your mind? And now when you are in corporate sector, how can you see that, what is the difference that there were difference in your dreams when you were here and now you are there in corporate sector?
Yeah, so I think, how should I put it? But when we are kids, when we are studying really hard, I don't think, like, at least I didn't see the larger purpose of life. I didn't see that, hey, why is it that I'm doing what I'm doing, right? So when I entered into the college, it was the same thing. Hey, everyone else is studying, so I am studying. Everyone else wants to go to a good college, so let me go to a good college as well, right? So to be honest, my dreams have actually built up. Maybe I've matured later on in my life, but now that I can say that, I have some dreams, right? And more than dreams, I would say just having a purpose for life, right? When I entered into college, I don't think I knew what I wanted to do, right? Until very late in my life, right? So that's how I put it. The only thing I knew is like just sports.
So sports is most important part of your life, I can say.
Thanks.
So our next question is, which was that 1 year that has changed your life completely? If you can recall.
Yeah, so so let me kind of provide some of the background, right? So it's not gonna be a short answer. So, and I think that is important. So I come from a fairly small town, okay, and where the studies options were not great, and that's the reason I was sent to a boarding school, right?
Yes.
And then I get into the college, and I pretty much 4 years didn't focus a lot on what I wanted to do in my life, right? But when I graduated from it, and I was among very few who actually could get a campus job, right? Campus placement.
That's really
So, but
encouraging.
and I do want to share the job that I got, okay? Because it does have some bearing on how I started thinking about my future. So the job I got was in ISAB India Limited. It's a company that and I'm hoping that I can take longer time to it, right?
Yes.
So okay, it's a company that actually manufactures welding machines. And the job I got was of service engineer. So what do service engineers do? They actually fix the machines, right? So for 1 year I worked there. My job was, my boss would tell me the night before that, hey, you know what? You need to go to a hydropower station that is close to Badrinath tomorrow morning at 4 a.m. and get there like 50 machines there. Just go and fix them.
Oh my God.
And next day, as soon as I'm back, like he didn't care whether I have the tickets booked. It's like, why don't you go to the diesel locomotive DLW, which is in Banaras, and the next time in Jalandhar or something. And all I would do is like take my toolkit and I'm gonna go and fix those machines. That's what I did. And by the way, the icing on the cake was, the job was to fix the welding machines, which means that I would need to really look at the quality of the welding that was happening, which means that when I come back home in the night, my eyes are like swollen, they're ready to pop out. So that, in some sense, that was the transformation year for me, because then I realized that, hey, what did I do with my life in YMCA, right? I enjoyed a lot, but I didn't really focus a lot on what I should have been focusing on, right? And from there, that changed the perception of how I'm going to look at my career, my life.
Okay, sir. So next question is, we always have that one person in our life who always motivate us. Whatever happens, he or she is always there with us. So who is that one person in your life?
That's a tough question. I would say though that my mom is sorry, I get emotional when I think about this was, but my mom is really inspirational. And the reason I say that is, it's not because of what she has achieved professionally or something. She's a homemaker, but I think the way she lives her life in terms of the discipline she follows, I think that's something that's really inspirational for me.
Yes, I think everybody sitting here, their mothers are their own inspiration. So our next question is, how do you handle confrontation or whenever you feel difficult?
Yeah, so that's a good question. I think, and that's something I don't think I've learned very easily. So what happens is, and we see this happening every day in the job, right? Think about me providing a feedback to my junior, right? That then it's all about the kind of words you use, right? It's about how you place that, how do you make that person feel, right? You still want to provide the right feedback. You still want to tell that person that, hey, these are the opportunities that lie, right? But it's about the words you use, right? Are you saying you more often? Are you saying I more often? Or can we actually say we more often, right? I think it's really, at the end of it, comes down to the words you use. So I am, especially in those sensitive discussions, it is very, very important to just be very careful about what you're saying, right? That's what I would say. And if that's one thing, and the second thing is, by default, if you believe that the other person's intention is not wrong, that's gonna go take you to places. That's gonna superbly help you. And that actually is true, right? And if you think about it, like, there has to be a reason behind someone else having bad intention towards you, right? Generally, it doesn't happen. Whether you're in corporate world or whether you're outside, right? You just assume that the intention is good, right? So if you kind of club these two things together, I think you will comfortably come out of the confrontation. That's my take.
Yes, sir, that is the essence of our life, that we have to use right words and we should have right intention. Another question is very interesting. How do you maintain your work-life balance?
So that's and let me give a
Yes,
bigger
yes.
answer, okay? So we didn't talk about my family, but it's me, my wife, and I have a 6-year-old and a 2.5-year-old, right? So both of them sons, right? So obviously they need time as well, and I value my family a lot. But it's ultimately a balance, and which is really tough, especially if you are going to be in a corporate world where the demands are very high. It's not going to be easy, right? So then the way you manage is actually having a very frank conversation at home, right? That hey, that there are only two ways about it. Either I work really hard, which I do, right? And then somewhere, like, someone has to take the load at home, right? So that's what my wife does, and I'm really glad about it. But it's about having that conversation and having the right expectations. It's not just about in the professional life, even at home, that hey, this is how I can, kind of making it very clear that, you know, I'm gonna make my time available, and then we need to share the load, right? I think just what happens is, and I've seen that typically in Indian families, is not having that conversation, right? Just be very open-minded, be when in doubt, over communicate is what I've learned, right? Just talk to your family, tell them that hey, this is what you need to do. But to be honest, my work-life balance is not great, right? I'll tell you, I work for Goldman Sachs, and 99.9% of my peer group is actually from IITs, right? And they have a prejudice right from the starting, right? And it has taken me a lot of time and a lot of effort to build my equity, right? And I do, like, maybe we'll cover that from the questions, but it is very hard to prove yourself when a lot of things are being decided by what college you come from, right? So you have to be extra careful about it, right?
Yes.
So what that means is there's no way I can compromise on the hard work that I do, right? So the only way I balance this out is by making sure that we have the right support at home, right? And then I don't compromise on my weekends.
That's really important, that we don't compromise our weekends. And I also personally believe that right conversation is the essence of our life, and we can maintain any relationship with right conversation. Next question is, would you like to share any interesting stories about this when you were there in this college, and that can help our students to
Yeah.
any story?
So I can share a lot of inspirational stories, but they are going to be outside of college, not from my college experiences. And
No,
I'm
you
just
can
being
share any story you want.
I'm just being very honest. So yeah. So let me share. I think let me take a couple of moments to share.
Sure, sir.
Right. So the life is very complex, right? And at the point of stage that we are in our life, we believe that that's probably the most complex, most tough time in our life. But I can tell you that's not true. Incrementally, as you move in your career, in your life, that life only gets tougher, right? So when we were having our first kid, right, and my wife was pregnant, we wanted to just get past that stage because we felt that was probably the toughest time in our life, right? But then when your kid wakes up through the night, then you feel like, oh my God, let me just pass this time and everything else should be hunky-dory, right? And then your kids grow up, and then you have the next stages of the complexities, and so on and so forth, and the careers, and right? So the life is never easy, and so is career. I have been at a different stages of my career. I just shared the story about my first job. Let me just continue that story, right?
Sure, sir.
So I did that job, and I can tell you that I was damn good about that job. It's not that I was not, but I knew that that's not the value that I carry, right? It's something more than that. So I leave that job, and I was like, hey, what are the options available to me? And I was like, hey, pretty much like everyone else, I'm going to pursue an MBA. Okay. I leave my job, start preparing for CAT. And I pretty much realized at that time that there is something called CAT. We didn't even know that in college. But so, and then I was like, I'm not gonna attend whatever the FITZs, no, the coaching institutes in Faridabad. I'm actually gonna go to Delhi to attend one.
Yeah, that's
Right, that's a
trend.
typical, right? So I do that, and introspecting or looking back, I knew I was going to totally fail in that, right? Because I had no clue why I wanted to do an MBA or what was the reason. I just like, hey, I didn't have any other option, so I went for it anyway. So I happened to get a government job with the electricity board, an officer's level job, and I was like, this is the best thing that could happen to me. And I was like elated, my family was elated, and everything was really, really good. And all my friends actually got jobs in the private sector. And this is the time, remember, I'm talking about 2003 to 2008. If you go and read about it, if you don't already know, that was one of the boom times of corporate India. The salaries were going up like crazy. My friends were in private sector, and all I would hear from them is someone was traveling to Tokyo, Singapore, and US, and their salaries were going up left, right, and center, and I'm in a government job, right? And then it was a typical samosa chai kind of job, right? So within a couple of years of me doing that job, I realized that, dude, I'm again in a bad soup. This is not what I signed up for. This is not what I really wanted to. So I'm kind of saying that is because, going back to my original point, the career never moves in a linear fashion. So what do? I start preparing for MBA again. That's what I do. So, and this is back in 2006. I pretty much remember all the dates, but I was really struggling. October 2006. So CAT happens in November, right?
Yes.
So I start preparing for CAT in October 2006, but not for that November, but for the next November.
Oh my
So for next 1 year, I don't go out of a house, my office and my home, and I'll work really, really hard. And you know what? After working that hard, I don't get great scores, right? I get whatever, not good enough to be selected in IIM A, B, and C. And then I was like, I'm not gonna leave my job for a government job, a decently paying job, for a second-tier institute. Okay. So I started preparing in October 2006, and you'll find out why I'm saying all these details is. And then by March of 2008, so 1.5 years passed, when the results come out, then I'm back to square one, right? And my dad asked me, like, hey, some of your friends who actually started preparing for an MBA, they're about to complete their MBAs, and you're still trying to get the admission in MBA. I'm like, Dad, yes, that's how it is. There's a difference
That becomes
between
most difficult when you face your dad for this.
right. But what I wanted to communicate to them is like, there's a difference between what they are trying to do and what I'm trying to do. And I'll bring up the friendship thing again because the roommate of mine in YMCA, and some of you guys probably know him, Saurabh Yadav. Him and I, we pretty much all our career has gone together, right? So then I was at a point where I was at a crossroads. I wanted to open a dhaba. I wanted to open a kind of lathe machine shop to kind of build screws and all. So I was like all over the place. I didn't know what I wanted to do, but then somehow we got together, we were talking, and then we realized that why don't we, and like, I don't think हमारे यहाँ पे दाल गलने वाली है, We are gonna get 99 point whatever scores in CAT, and we are not gonna compromise on the institutes. Like, hey, probably go for GMAT and do the MBA from US, right? So then he ended up going to UK, and I ended up going to US for the MBA. But think about the timing. We started doing that in 2008, and what happens in August 2008? You guys all know, right? The Lehman Brothers and the Bear Stearns, and the economy tanks, right? The Great Recession happens, and what happens in that? No one gets a job. People are getting fired, right? And what am I doing? This is the time when I need to take a call. Hey, I'm in a government job which is paying me okay. I'm not happy with it, but I don't have the money to take the loan, and you guys know the MBA from US is super expensive. I request my dad that, hey, of course I was not going to take a penny from my dad. It's like, request my dad, can you put his house on collateral so that I can actually go for an MBA? And this is the time when I need to leave my government job. I need to get a lot of money in loans, right? And third, I don't know whether I'm gonna get a job because people are getting fired. And it was a really, really tough decision for me to make, right? And the reason I'm bringing that up is there are hard, tough decisions that one has to take, right? And then what happens? Sorry, I'm continuing with my story, but hopefully that works. But so I didn't have a wonderful career, right? From 2003, pretty much once I graduated, I was struggling. I was struggling at different stages of my life where I didn't know what I wanted to do. And then I go for an MBA, but thankfully things start improving, okay? The economy starts improving back, and by 2010 things get better. But I have a huge pressure to find a job, and campuses don't happen. Like, people don't get a job on platter in US, that companies would come to you. You need to reach out, you need to go and talk to people, right? And very, very important thing to mention. What do? I go to YMCA Alumni Network on LinkedIn and request that, hey, people who are sitting in US, can you help me out with the job? And I'm not kidding. Someone from YMCA actually referred me to a bank, one of the top banks, and I could crack the interview. I got the job, right? And that was the moment. From there, I never looked back. So I have few notes. I didn't know that it was going to be a question answer session, but I have few. So I pretty much thought that it was going to be a monologue and I would be talking for 1 hour, and I can literally do that, by the way, but because I'm ready with my notes. So the point I want to make is, maybe some of the things that I want to mention may not come out from your questions, but I feel like it's very, very important for me to mention them, because if the voyage is about our experiences, it is also about you guys getting something out of our experience. So I want to make sure that comes out of it. So if you don't mind, I'm going to continue for some more minutes.
You can continue. You can say whatever you want to
So
say.
thank you.
There is no restriction.
Appreciate that. So yeah, the one thing that I wanted to say is, again, going back to that the career is not linear, is like, hey, now I'm gonna talk about few things that I believe as you guys, take your career forward, and for that matter, life forward, is like, and I'm gonna bring up 3, 4, 5 things that I believe are important. But your career is not going to be linear, okay? Just accept that, okay? But what is very, very important is you don't stop trying for it, okay? And there's going to be time when you will be making very, very hard decisions in your life, but those will be the time when you'll be really be tested. So it is, don't get bogged down with, with the challenges you face. There would be time when you are going to be on top of the world as well, right? And just continuing on my journey, right? So the guy who referred me, by the way, he's doing wonderfully well in his career. He has moved on from the bank, the Capital One bank that I joined. And I actually didn't know that that bank is supposed to be a fairly good one, but I got through it. And I mentioned that there was never looking back, right? But by that, what I mean is, I found the niche for myself there, right? And what was it? Basically, you would have, I'm going to use some of the fancy words, but analytics and machine learning and the AIs and all of those. That's basically is what I do today. That was the starting point of that journey, right? So just continuing on that journey, I got married in 2011, and my wife moved to US with me, and she studied for 2 years. By 2014, we planned a kid, right? We wanted to introduce our kid to our parents, right? None of them were there. But so in February 2016, we came back here for a visit. My wife meets with an accident and she passes. Okay? And I was thinking while coming here whether I should mention this or not, right? But there is a reason I'm saying this again, is because I believe that you could possibly learn from that. But I have a house in US. I have I had 2 cars in US. That was the moment that I decided that I had a small kid, that I'm not going back. Okay? None of those were like easy decisions to make, and of course I was going through a tough time, and by God's grace I have moved on, right? I've married again and I got another kid, so it's all good, right? But there were really tough times, and you guys all would have your own share of tough times, but just be strong and continue to make progress. That's what I would say on that piece. Thank you.
Your story was really inspiring, sir. Moving towards our next step, we will have some rapid fire round.
Okay.
And there are short questions and you have to reply them quickly.
Okay, I'll try.
Okay, so be ready. First question is, one word your friends describe you most often.
Sorry, I'm forgetting the word, but we used to use that word in college. Bhand.
Oh my God.
I guess that's the word they use, I guess. Yeah.
Okay, next. One surprising thing people can find about you.
Can find about me.
Okay, nobody knows now, right now.
Oh, I dance well. I don't know, probably that's
That's really nice. So we know first job you have ever done.
Yeah.
That was that electrical
Yep.
job. Next is, what was your childhood dream when you were a kid?
Sports, again. I mean, sorry about that, I'm repeating it, but I don't think I won't do that with my kids, but my parents really didn't support me in that, and I still kind of am angry with them. So, I would go to a playground, and my dad, I know, would come back home at 6, and I would make sure to be back at home at 5:45. That's what I would do. So yeah, so if I would have been in a different career if I was not here.
Who is your favorite sportsman?
Sachin Tendulkar, end to end, it remains, he would be.
He's also my favorite.
Okay, great.
So you were a hostler.
Yes, I was a hostler.
Ever crashed a hostel party?
Ever crashed a hostel party? What does that mean? I don't know. We had too many parties out there, but so every party is our party. I mean, when you say crash, it's more of like when we're having a party with girls. Like I don't know. That's what. What do you mean by that?
You can say whatever.
Yeah. So yeah, multiple parties.
Okay, that's great.
On the crashing part, by the way, like I must admit, I won't do that, but we used to crash the weddings as well.
So next is one rule you used to break in this college.
One rule I mean, I had like so many different rules I broke.
You can explain all of them.
No, but so I remember it was first year, and you know, ragging used to be pretty strict and all. And I'm forgetting the name of our electrical HOD, but he was on the round, right? And he was the warden as well as he was a really strict guy, right? And I was on the first floor. I go on the windows, and windows were like, there was no kind of jalis in it, right? So I like banged the windows really, really hard.
Oh my god.
And he actually saw me, right? And I was an electrical, and he was an electrical HOD as well. So just my 4 years went into, just imagine how it went. Anything that happens in the hostel, basically you would like, you did it.
That was very interesting.
Yeah, so that was tough.
Yes. YMCA experience in one word.
Phenomenal.
Wow. Any takeaways from YMCA?
Friendship.
Coolest thing about working as a risk manager?
Yeah, so I can spend some time. I need to just
Sure,
yeah.
sure.
So yeah, I'm a risk manager. So let me take this moment to actually explain what I do as well. So I work for a bank, and if you think about a bank, and within the bank, I work within the credit cards division. Now, what do? If you think about it, they are within 30 seconds they are taking a decision whether to give you a credit card or not. So by the way, it doesn't happen here in India that much. They would ask for your pay slips and all that. Doesn't happen in US. The way that happens is you enter your name, you enter your date of birth, and you enter your SSN, which is the Aadhaar card, and maybe one or two more basic details. That's it. Within 30 seconds you would know whether your credit card got approved or declined, right? And how much line do you have? You have a $5,000 line, $10,000 line, and so on and so forth. Now, just think about what happens behind the scene that bank is able to take that call. There's a lot of analytics that runs behind the scene to make that happen, and that's what I do. The amount of risk a bank takes, and it's a unsecured loan, right? So if on a daily basis the bank books 1,000 cards, and on a $5,000 line, we're actually talking about billions of dollars of risk a bank is taking on an annual basis, right? So, and similarly, the other thing that I do, and I have an expertise in, is on the fraud side of things. So, think about it, when you swipe your card, I don't know how many of you have actually experienced that, but some of those transactions are actually fraudulent transactions. Okay, now if I talk about the event rate, right? Basically how many times that fraud happens, it's around 2 out of 10,000 transactions that are actually fraud. Okay, really needle in that haystack, right? And my job is to identify those 2 transactions and be able to decline those transactions, right? That's my job. And if I don't do that, if I fail in my job, my bank is going to lose millions and millions of dollars collectively in the full year. That's the kind of conversation we are having here, right? Now, if you think about what happens behind the scene is, for every single transaction that you're doing, about you, about the merchant, about your location, about everything, we are actually getting thousands, and we are able to develop thousands and thousands of informations that we are gathering for you, and be able to make smarter decisions using them. And we use all those kind of statistical models and machine learning and all that to do that, right? And that's what my job is. And the coolest part of really being the risk manager is you need to kind of think ahead of what you don't see in the data. I think that's the coolest part. What you see in the data, you can deduce from the data. That's like anyone can do that. As a risk manager, you need to think what you don't see in the data and be able to still assess the risk.
You have to go beyond the data.
Yeah.
So next is, what was the best piece of advice you have ever given?
So no one word answer I can have. I'm still so for my friends and family, I am their go-to investments guy, right? They reach out to me for investments they need to make, right? How they should think about their finances, how they should think about allocating their money, how should they minimize the risk, right? And I read a lot about it as well, right? So I feel good that I'm able to provide the right guidances to my close ones, and that's what I would say. I do have a lot of advices for the team, but let's cover your questions and then I'll keep them for the end as well. Few advices. Hopefully you guys would be ready to bear with me.
Okay, so next we will be showing a picture here,
Yeah.
and you have to tell about it.
Yeah, I'm ready to tell about that. Why don't you show that picture?
Sir is very
So-
excited.
Yeah. So this is me, by the way. So there is a message to all the skinny people eating boiled egg every day. Yeah, I'm sure there are few, right? Like, you will get there, right? Don't worry about it. You see this and you see me, there is some improvement, okay? So don't worry about eating that ghee ka dabba and bringing that from home every day. So yeah, right? So yeah, so this is so as I mentioned that I was fond of dancing, right? So enter college, of course I make friends. So all my college friends were from either Chandigarh or Panchkula, right? And they would speak Punjabi. I have no clue about Punjabi. Where do I come from, by the way? I come from a really small town called Firozpur Jhirka. 99% of you guys would not have heard of it, but it's in the most backward area of Haryana, which is Mewat. So there's a Sohna, there's a Nu, and then it's Firozpur Jhirka. It's a really small town, okay? So forget about like understanding Punjabi. I can't even speak Hindi properly, like, because there's a Desi language that goes in there. But anyway, so and then I meet these guys, and these guys are Bhangra guys, right? And I'm like, I can dance. I don't care what you want me to dance on. And then so this is the Bhangra dance that we are doing. And by the way, the other guy is actually his name is Anil. One of my best friends, and this is what I've earned in YMCA. But this is part of Kalmaika, where we perform dancing on Tu Ni Tera Yaar Bolda, and we mixed it up with forgetting the Mika's other Gana. But yeah, a couple of fusion songs, and we did it.
That's very cool about that you participated in Kalmaika, because there are many students sitting here, they also participate every year.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
So at last, message to our students, and after that session will be open for students.
Yeah. So let me share like message for students, right? So I do wanna give some gyan, right? So I know that majority of the Janta gives, but these are few things that I have learned from my experiences, right? Not that I'm sharing whatever someone else would say. So take it or leave it, but these are actionable items that I feel that you could possibly benefit from, right? This is about how you want to progress with your career, right? The few things I want to mention, right? So the one thing that I want to call out is evaluate yourself and then invest in yourself, right? This is a wonderful time when you are in your college to enjoy, but this is also the time to invest in yourself, right? And you cannot invest in yourself unless you do a fair assessment, an unbiased assessment of where you stand, okay? And the outside world is super competitive, right? So it's, if you think that you're just gonna go out and you're gonna get a whatever different compensation or not, you should really ask yourself, and not just ask yourself probably in front of mirror or in front of anyone, just try to make a 60-second speech of why you are better than anyone else, right? If you think that if you can convince yourself in that 60-second speech, you're gonna go do wonderful in your career, okay? And whatever that reason may be, whatever you believe that you can differentiate yourself with, it will be super duper hard to come up with even 10 seconds, I can tell you that, right? And that is what you need to work on. I know I'm talking at a 30,000 feet level, and I can actually drill it down to the most granular level, but let me give an example of that, okay? And all the examples are the guidance I'm giving are related with my career. Back in 2003, I talked about my first job. At that point in time, Infosys was ready. Infosys was so desperate to hire people. They were ready to hire people based on just the written test. No interviews, nothing. You would just do the written test. But me being me, I was so afraid of coding that I was like, dude, I'm not gonna sit in this Infosys exam. No matter I'm unemployed, I'm not doing well in my career, I'm just not gonna do that because I hate coding. Now, how the heck did I know that I hate coding? I never did coding. Unless I do something, how would I know that I would really hate that, right? I didn't do it, okay? And of course I struggled later on. I get my first job in the bank. The first thing I'm asked to do is to learn coding. And by the way, I'm a decent coder right now. I'm an electrical engineer. I hated coding. The first job I got was in 2011. I was 28 years old at that point in time, which means that I am less open to learning new things, right? But I did that. And I'm glad that I did that, because today, when I have those IITians reporting to me, right, I can actually go into their codes and tell them that, like, hey, this is the mistake that you have made, right? So the point that I'm trying to make is, you have to really think, right, where you stand and then invest accordingly. Whatever career you choose, right? Whether you go into the core manufacturing line or you take the knowledge economy career, you take the product management or whatever, you should actually be able to say how you differentiate yourself, right? So that's one on the hard skill side of things. Whether you're going for doing an MBA, and by the way, I did that coding job. I started with that coding job after I did my MBA. Don't forget that, right? People, when I was doing my MBA, I was made to feel that there is a CEO chair sitting and I'm just gonna sit on that. It doesn't happen that way. I can tell you right now. You have to really go in and be able to add value, whatever that value is, right? And if you cannot do that, just imagine that your salary is not gonna go up. If you can contribute 100 rupees, then only you can earn 10 rupees out of it, okay? Now, whatever, again, different fields, whatever, but I'm just giving you an overall framework around that. So it's very, very important. The second thing I wanna mention, so this is within the invest in yourself scope, right? Is on the soft skill side of things. I mentioned about me coming from the small town. I could hardly even write a sentence in English. I can tell you that. When I got into the campus interviews, I could not speak English at all. My legs were shivering, right? And that was a big shock of my life. You know, what the heck? What did I do, right? So then there was a point when I started investing in it. I still have a notebook which is like this thick and almost like 4,000 to 5,000 words written by my hand, and I still know every single word of that. I like noted down the meanings, and it's not just taken from the dictionary. Read it from the books, understand that word, and do it, right? And I'm not trying to relate the soft skills to just the spoken English, by the way. That's not what I mean. And you guys are 100 times better off than what I was. My point is, 80% of the job, whichever job you get into, is about communication, okay? So you better be good at it. I don't see majority of my colleagues, I don't meet them. They're sitting in US. The only way for me to communicate with them is through the phone or a video call, right? So if I cannot elaborate my thoughts, if I cannot be articulate, then it gets very tough no matter how good I am in coding or in the hard skills, right? So you have to balance both out and you have to work on both of them. There's no other way out. That's I've just covered one. I'm gonna continue. Is that okay? And I hope that's okay, sir. Okay. So the other piece of advice I'll give is connect. Network with people, talk to people. Don't live in isolation. Don't work in isolation. You cannot imagine how important this thing is. We are so much comfortable in our own space, working the way we want to do. And by the way, I can tell you, all the alumni, and I'm saying not even alumni, anyone, people want to help. You might think that's not the case. You might feel embarrassed that why should I reach out to someone? What would that person think? You don't have to. You just have to reach out, right? No kidding, I had no clue who the Prakshi Vij is when she reached out to me, and I didn't know that she was referred by Saurabh Yadav. I didn't know that, right? I think that Saurabh mentioned that you can reach out to me, but my point is that people are ready to help. I got my break in the consumer banking through that network. I use the YMCA network, right? There are people who are doing MBA, there are people who are doing electronics engineering or whatever. There's so many different alumni. You feel that it's a college responsibility to facilitate those conversations. You're wrong, actually. You need to go in and it's not YMCA mob's responsibility as well, right? There is an open forum called LinkedIn. Just go and talk to people, right? So that would be something I would really request you guys to do that, okay? So I'm moving on to the third one, and I'm gonna keep it short because I think I've already communicated with that. Be consistent and have the perseverance. And I've already So I've already told the reasons behind that. The life is complex. The career is not going to be linear. Don't get bogged down by it. Continue to just move forward. No job is a small job, and you have to start somewhere, right? Somehow I've seen this attitude today. So a couple of my cousins graduated recently. They are like, hey, I'm only going to work when someone pays me 50,000 rupees, right? And I asked this hard question to that person. It's like, hey, can you tell me in 30 seconds what are you going to add, right? And of course he doesn't have an answer, right? And I think you have to start somewhere. So just because you want to get to a particular place doesn't mean that you have to start from that place as well. You can still start small, and you can any point in time you can change your career, or you can do that. But the key is to still start, right? So something important that somehow people miss out. I think that's important. The other one, I think this is the last one I'll say, and then I'll stop, and then you can continue. So there is a value in brands. Okay, let's recognize that we come from YMCA. Okay, it's a brand in making, but it's still not a brand. Okay, from 2016 onwards, since I've moved back to India, I've been visiting college IIT campuses for recruitment. I've been leading the IIT BHU campuses, and then of late the Madras one, right? And then I must have hired probably 50 to 60 people in last 4 years, right? There is such a big cloud and big bias around the brands, right? About the tiers of the colleges. My bosses have always been the IITians, and there is a blatancy around that, right? So I remember once rejecting an IIT Madras and IIT Ahmedabad guy from the interview, and my boss was like, dude, he's an IIT and I'm Ahmedabad. I'm like, I don't care. He cannot pass my interview and I'm not gonna allow that, right? So, but what I'm saying is there is a huge clout when you get associated with a brand, right? So I'm just being very candid and honest and right open here. For me, I had the same challenge as well. Somehow I happened to be working for a company called Capital One, which is, I didn't know by that time, is known for its risk management. I moved back to India. I start looking for a job. I'm just giving you one more example. Hero FinCorp. So Hero Honda, Hero company also has a financial arm that's called Hero FinCorp. I talked to the CEO of Hero FinCorp, one of the Munjals, and the only reason he wanted to hire me and directly report to him was because he felt that I'm a guy from Capital One, and somehow I can transform his whole risk management practice. And by the way, I didn't have all the skill sets that he needed, right? But that's the value of the brand. Okay, so whatever field you choose, right, just see if you can associate yourselves with strong brands. That is going to help you tremendously. I think so. These are 3, 4, 5 things that I wanted to mention, which looking back have helped me in my career on where I stand today.